On January 26, 1991, Somalia experienced a major upheaval that resulted in the collapse of its government, loss of its national identity, and a breakdown of its social and cultural values. This event marked a turning point where the educated and uneducated individuals were reduced to the same level of thinking. The once highly respected culture and etiquettes of Somalis were abandoned, and even causing the wildlife of the region to migrate to neighboring countries such as Kenya and Tanzania, eventually reaching the Serengeti and Masai. This significant event occurred on January 26, which was the day that the former President Jala Mohammed Barre was ousted from the capital city, signaling the start of a dark period for Somalia. For a period of 21 years, Somalia was governed by a democratic republic government that enabled the nation to achieve remarkable economic and political progress, allowing it to compete with other countries in the region. Despite eventually losing the trust of many Somalis, the government had established a reputation for military strength and capability, particularly in the Horn of Africa, where its armed forces were recognized as the Lions of Africa. As a result of this achievement, Somalia had emerged as one of the strongest nations in Africa. Due to political motives, the government in power at that time launched attacks against its own citizens, particularly in the northern region. In response, rebel groups such as the USC saw opportunities to strike and launch an attack against the government after a fierce battle in the capital city of Hamar. On January 26, 1991, the educated soldiers, priests, youth, and women were united in their desire to see Siad Barre removed from his position of power without considering the potential consequences of his ousting. Following Jala Mohammed Barre's removal from power, Somalia descended into a period of destruction and instability. The violence was unrelenting, and with indiscriminate killings, widespread rape, and new saying that emerged among the citizens, Maskax barar iyo cagab barar. While it was the right of the Somali people to have a say in who ruled their country, the government failed to respect this, and as a result, unpatriotic rebel groups with no experience in governance or a solid foundation emerged. For instance, they were funded by external actors such as Mengistu's Ethiopia, leading to the long-held dream of a unified Somalia becoming increasingly unattainable. After Jala Mohammed Barre was ousted and removed from Villa Somalia, around 30 rebel groups were formed, with their main objective being based on tribalism. Their fighters mainly comprised the people from the countryside, known as Rermi in Somali. The leaders of these rebel groups were motivated by the desire to take Siad Barre's place in Villa Somalia. Unfortunately, the weapons of the nation fell into the wrong hands, as they were seized by people who had been oppressed for years. The acquisition of these military weapons led to countless killings, theft, and revenge. The armed forces were disbanded, and stupidity became widespread. The distinction between the educated and illiterate, rural and urban populations, criminals, and law enforcement officers became increasingly difficult due to the backwardness and ignorance that had consumed all. On January 26, 1991, everything in Greater Somalia was altered. The concept of a unified Somalia was replaced by federal clan states, and a national president was replaced by a puppet leader representing a specific clan. The hope for peace was replaced by intense rivalry, and joy was replaced by shock and distress. The Democratic Republic of Somalia was replaced by several separate regions, including Somaliland, Puntland, Jubaland, Galmudugland, Hirshabelle and Southwest Stateland. National identity and power were replaced by tribalism and destruction, and the idea of unity was replaced by civil unrest. Nationalism was replaced by love of refugeeism, and national affairs were replaced by individual interest. The call for Somalia to wake up and unite was replaced by a struggle to break away from each other. Those in positions of power were replaced by criminals, and the act of seeking God's help was replaced by seeking aid from the non-believers. Despite the fact that the government of Jala Mohammed Barre committed major crimes, it is worth considering what has been achieved since his ousting.
Wasn't Siad Barre the man whom they claimed divided the country along tribal lines and caused division among the people? Wasn't he accused of committing genocide and abusing his own citizens? However, has any group emerged after him that has shown more love for the country, patriotism, and Somalinimo, and has worked towards building a united nation and away from tribalism? The answer is clear. Siad Barre was ousted so that chemicals could be dumped into the Somali Sea, the ocean could be sold off, and the north could be turned into a complete desert, while national resources could be privatized. His removal was also part of the long-standing dream of Mengistu and Ethiopia to control Somalia from Addis Ababa, to destroy law and order and the basic principles of government, and leave the country without a functioning government. The number of people killed during Jala Mohammed Siad Barre's government was relatively less compared to the number killed after him. The events of January 26, 1991 marked a turning point in Somali history, leading to ongoing divisions and a lack of consensus. Humility has been replaced by ego, knowledge by ignorance, Italian by Tigray, and Rome by Addis Ababa. In a hypothetical argument, Fir'aun and Shaitan debated their sins, with Fir'aun stating that Shaitan was the worst sinner for denouncing God's command. Shaitan then replied that at least he did not claim God's might and power, which made Fir'aun the worst. Only Allah knows which of these two disbelievers is worse in His sight. But the moral of the story is that Somalia's issue with the Democratic Republic government is that of the Shaitan, and anarchy and the rebels are like Fir'aun. Which of the two is worse? Only history can answer this question.